It has to be over here.
Warning, the Catholic Man Show is about to begin. If you're looking for a dull, feel-good religion, or clap your hands, sit around the campfire kumbaya, you've come to the wrong place. We are dealing with toxic levels of authentic masculinity. I would say good luck, but luck is for pagans.
Welcome to this special edition of the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. This is only the second time the Catholic Man Show has been as beautiful. In the episode, I'm Adam Minahan here with David Niles, but we have our lovely wives with us in studio.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi. So happy to be here.
So just to make introduction, this is Lady Pamela. And
Hello.
Lady Pamela Niles, Lady Haylee Minahan. Thank
Hi.
you for joining us. We're really excited you're here.
I
don't know how excited they are, but we're excited they're here.
Super excited. We're excited.
Telling myself I'm excited. How about that?
I am excited.
Well, this is a very special edition of the Catholic Man Show. If this is your first time listening, Dave, why don't you give them an idea of what the Catholic Man Show is about?
So the Catholic Man Show is a show, radio show and podcast, dedicated to restoring the art of virtuous living in the life of the Catholic man or the future Catholic man. We have a lot of future Catholics who listen to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do that a number of ways. We talk about virtue. We talk about living the good life. Every show we open, review, and enjoy a manly beverage. Sometimes we will also highlight a man gear of some kind, and then we have a topic discussion. Today we're going to be talking about the domestic church.
So it's very fitting that our wives are with us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This has also been a very episode that we have been drawn out waiting for about 2 years.
The long-awaited episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we have officially launched our book that we've been working on, like I said, for 2 full years.
Living Beyond Sunday.
With Ascension Press.
Living Beyond Sunday.
How to Make Your Home a Holy Place.
I still struggle with the subtitle. It's like, it's something about being a holy house.
How to Make Your Home a
How to
Holy
make your
Place.
home a holy place.
Yeah. So we've been working on this for about 2 years. We did the book with our wives, Pamela and Haylee. We were able to incorporate things that we've talked about on the show, but then also just like our real life examples.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So
It was a kind of a challenge, I thought, writing with all four of us. It's hard writing with other people because, you especially when you're in the editing phase, you come across a paragraph and you think, I didn't write this. Can I change it? Who did write it?
And the voice changes.
Right.
With the writing.
It does.
Because everyone has their own unique style. And you're going through and you're like, oh, there was an obvious shift here.
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering, was that Pamela?
Right.
Or was that?
Yeah. But so we finished the book.
yes.
Praise the Lord.
Being published.
Mm-hmm.
We're officially authors. Very proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like going through it. So we thought
We don't have a copy of the book to show you today because
it's
just now available for
Pre-sale.
For pre-sale.
You can go to
right.
ascensionpress.com to pre-order it. But before we get into the book, Dave, I think it like we're men of tradition. I think it's important that we stick to tradition of the show. So today we'll be opening up a bottle of Writer's Tears. It's Irish whiskey. We thought it was very appropriate for this episode, being that we just finished our book. There's sometimes that
And maybe there were tears.
maybe there were some tears.
I don't know.
It was interesting how difficult I thought the book, like originally we thought, the book was it's going to be pretty easy. We all just take a topic, let's write a chapter, we put them all together, should be fine.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize, I guess, how hard writing
Writing
really
a book is hard.
It's really tough.
Who knew?
Yeah, because also you're like in real life where, you know, people get sick for 2 weeks and you're, whoops, we missed that deadline.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. We got the Rona, and that made it hard to write. I had
And then we went on vacation.
the fog.
and-
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well-
anyway, but we got it done.
So
Let's
cheers. We're on the
try
Lord's
some whiskey.
team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Cheers. So Haylee and I just got back from Ireland on our anniversary, our 10-year anniversary trip, and we went to the Irish Whiskey Museum in Dublin. And they go through the whole, here's how whiskey was made. Here's the importance of Irish whiskey, even in their common life. You know, during that time, one of the things that's very unique about Irish whiskey is that it's triple distilled. All Irish whiskey is triple distilled, so it's not going to have that very strong burn. It's going to be a little, because it's purifying the whiskey 3 times instead of most scotches are twice, or bourbons are twice. But Irish whiskey is 3 times. So it's going to
you
give
can
it a
definitely
smoother whiskey. Now,
Irish whiskey is a lot more approachable. It's like a lot easier to drink than what a lot of Scotch is.
Now the Gaelic for whiskey is Ishkabaha.
Ooh, I like it.
Okay, and so that means water of life. And so the end of Ishki has an E at the end. And so there's a big debate on whether or not Irish whiskey is spelled with an E. Scottish whiskey, Scotch is spelled without an E. And so there's always a debate of who came first, which whiskey came first.
Who invented whiskey?
Right, who invented it.
Because that's got a big deal.
Right. And so
when we were going through this tour, it seemed like there was a lot of controversy.
Little tense.
Yeah.
little tense. And so the Irish say that whiskey was made first in Ireland, and
Naturally.
it's Ishki, because it has the E at the end. This is how we spell
Whiskey.
it. Ishki. Yeah, whiskey.
So is that how they say it in Ireland? Whiskey?
No. I mean,
That's too bad.
it's more of like
that would have been a really fun tour.
most of them say just a malt. I'd like a malt.
Oh.
Oh, really?
So
All right.
Anyway, that's a little bit of history. This is why. So, Dave, for those who maybe this is the first time listening to the Catholic Man Show, why do we have a drink on the show? What's the purpose of that?
Well, God made the things of this earth good, and they should be enjoyed for their goodness. And so we always promote the virtue of temperance on the show, moderation. But there's something about having a good drink with friends that just facilitates a good conversation, similar to having a good meal around the table. It just provides an atmosphere for good conversation about good things to take place. And so that's why we do it, because it's good.
That's right. So, ladies, why don't we get into, we have a few minutes before the first break, why don't we get into kind of how we broke down the book? Because it's broken down into basically 10 chapters. There's some unique chapters in there because sometimes Dave and I write together, sometimes you guys write together, sometimes spouses write together. What were your thoughts? Kind of break that down.
Oh, I don't know. Like, where did we even start? Just what are the basics of the domestic church? Like the relationships, like what does your house look like? Kind of started there and broke it down even more.
Yeah, I think the kind of separating who's going to write which subject, which chapter, it kind of came together pretty easy because we could see the dynamics of each person or 2 people together. Like Pamela and I did the Motherhood, obviously, chapter together, and that was maybe one of my favorite ones just because it was interesting to see both of our unique takes on it. And and it also helped to facilitate changing our lifestyle a little bit.
Yeah, and so Adam and I did the Motherhood chapter. I mean, Fatherhood chapter. That would have been funny.
That's
No. That would have been funny.
Yeah.
We would have laughed at you.
I would have liked to see that,
I
though.
also would like to see that.
Motherhood.
Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
All right.
How
Like-
the turntables have turned.
Like, we have a big section on suffering in that chapter, and I'm not sure you would have included that.
Motherhood it's easy, all right? I'll just tell you, it looks pretty simple. You sit at home. I'm gonna stop there.
You should probably stop.
Yeah, so
We'll cut that.
we start the introduction with like, what is the domestic church? You know, the domestic church kind of came about in the Vatican II documents when we're talking about how the home is the first and the primary provider and establisher, basically, of the Catholic faith in the home, right? For the faith. So we kind of break that down, like, if we are the soul, you know, the first, the combat, the front lines in this spiritual warfare, what does that look like?
Yeah.
So, and what's the purpose of having being intentional, being Catholic, outside of just being Sunday going Catholic mass goers?
It was hard to choose just topics that, you know, we all wanted to fit into just a few chapters, because there's so many that help with establish the unity that you could go into. But I feel like we did a good job of.
Yeah. The thing I think I appreciate so much about it is that we had a chance to take the things that we do in our own lives that have worked well for us, you know, in our own family life, things that are not just about, how to have, you know, a well-ordered household, but about how to take a well-ordered household and put a very Catholic flavor in it, right? That the things that of our house as Catholics should be different from your random, you know, average secular household, even though a secular household still might be well ordered. Is it ordered? What's it ordered to? That's the question, you know?
Right. So we're here with our wives, Pamela and Haylee, are here in the Catholic Man Show studio. We're talking about our new book, Living Beyond Sunday, How to Make Your Home a Holy Place. Go check that out on ascensionpress.com. We'll be right back.
That went by fast.
Yeah, first segment done.
It always happens that way.
Boom.
Do you want this to stay on?
We can definitely hear it.
I didn't notice it until right then.
Okay, so you need to make sure that you're on the mic.
Okay.
You were.
Well, and I'm talking to people that,
Yeah,
you know.
so we can.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is hard to.
To pivot.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna just get into a chapter.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, what chapter do you? So we've got building the domestic church.
We should just lay out say the title of probably the chapters in the book, so that way, even if we don't cover something, somebody who's listening be like, "Ooh, I would like to learn more about that."
Okay.
But do we need to pick one for this next segment, or pick two to kind of focus on?
Yeah, that'd probably be good.
Yeah, I think we could each pick a chapter that was your favorite, and that you want to just give a summary of.
I don't think I can pick a favorite.
You have
I
to.
hate them all. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
My favorites are the ones that I wrote, you know, because
So vain.
well, you know, it's like I sat
Kidding,
there
I
sat
know.
there and, you know,
You don't have to
I
have-
put
you
myself
haven't-
into them, right?
You have
And
an
so-
attachment to it for
Right,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to tiptoe around anybody, you know,
or
I made this part, you made that part.
you know, or it's like I also thought about them the most.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to do hospitality?
Sure, I'll
yeah?
do hospitality or the rooms themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Either one.
Yeah, I think the hospitality one, if we're gonna do that, that should be at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the rooms one because that's kind of a unique one.
Mm-hmm.
I can do leisure.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good.
You ladies could probably do the motherhood one if you wanted, and kind of go through what. Because you kind of pitched the idea of we talked about suffering, and
Yeah.
people would be like, what do you mean by that? And what angle?
Women wouldn't be like that. No.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, but
Who
what
wants
angle?
to suffer? Yeah.
And maybe the living liturgically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who wrote that one, but
I think you and I did.
Okay.
Maybe.
But I think there's a lot. It's
There
a
you
lot
can-
to say on that topic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I could do that one.
You guys could both.
And then service. Did we write the service one
Mhm.
together? I think so.
I think we all wrote the service one because
yes,
it was
we
like
split it up.
Oh, we did? Okay.
because it was like
That's right. Yeah,
service
it's
to
like-
husband and
Parent-
wife.
Oh, that's right. That's
Uh-huh.
right.
Okay.
We'll just see what happens.
So we'll start off with the motherhood.
Let's start off by listing the
We'll start off,
chapters,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and then we can go to motherhood, and then we'll go from there.
I have to burp.
Okay. Good one.
Okay.
Just don't want that to be on.
Well,
Everything.
everything,
Everything
is.
right now. We're still recording.
Well, sorry about that, folks.
Oh, we're still on.
When you're
okay.
pregnant, you get
You get special excuses.
you get passes on stuff.
Okay, here we go. Maybe. I thought it was 0. I
You
thought it
should
was
tell people
O.
about that.
It should
like,
be O.
in the breaks.
It's
Yeah, let me
not.
see.
Oh,
Let me
by
see
the
it.
way. Yeah. Or not. That makes it a little more interesting.
Yeah.
If you guys would watch the show, you would know.
Well, okay. Cheers.
Well, I just figured since this is pre-recorded and not live, like I know the live,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
He
it's,
changed it. He changed it to the letter B.
Well, that makes sense.
Oh, I wonder why he changed it.
I don't know.
it's less of a reach.
Okay,
All right.
that's fine.
What is the
Now
B
I know.
for?
Ready?
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles. Here with Adam Minahan, our special guests, the most special people that we know, our wives, Lady Pamela and Lady Haylee. Thank you so much, ladies.
You're welcome.
You're beautiful.
You're very
You're beautiful.
welcome.
We didn't actually talk about the whiskey. To me, this is everything that you expect out of an Irish whiskey. It's, very smooth, very drinkable. It's got that classic honey, lemon flavor, right? That is Irish whiskey right there. Writer's Tears by Copperpot. Is that
No,
the distillery?
No, it's Writer's Tears.
Writer's Tears is the distillery.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this is their...
This is
There's no age statement on here.
typically that's the case with Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, because they have different rules. Here in bourbon, is it bonded? All of those. But it's very good. How much was it? Do you remember?
Oh, it's about $50.
All right.
Did you get it in Ireland?
I did not. No, we bought it. I bought it here. I bought this actually probably 6 months ago, waiting for this
In
show.
anticipation.
Yes.
Is the reason they don't sometimes put the age on the bottle is because it's so young and they don't want to say
Little embarrassed.
6 months
Yeah,
Yeah.
instead
because
of the 4 years or
because the youngest whiskey that's in the bottle is what is considered the aged whiskey. So you can have if it's blended together, you can have a 6-month-old whiskey blended with a 21-year-old whiskey, and they
Right.
can only legally say that it's a 6-month whiskey.
I see.
Right. So even if it's a single malt, most distillers will still take different age, a little bit of their 10, a little bit of their, older ones and younger ones and put them together. But at least here in America, there's the law is that you can only represent it as the youngest of those mixing. I don't know what the law is in Ireland.
It's the same.
I suppose though, if you're importing it into the U.S., you'd still have to abide by those rules, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But it is the same. You're saying the laws in Ireland are that's correct. Okay.
So our book, Living Beyond Sunday, Making Your Home a Holy Place, we wrote it with all of our wives. And
All of our
all of them. all of them. So why don't we go through the chapters of the book real quick, and then we can break down maybe a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
Pamela, will you read them? You have
I
those.
would. It would be my pleasure. Okay, first we start off with building the domestic church, and then a chapter on marriage, the heart of the domestic church, fatherhood, motherhood, living liturgically, the language of the domestic church, the home of the domestic church, like
the
your
building,
actual structure,
the actual house building.
yes, holy leisure, service, and service is cool. It goes through all of the relationships in the family, and then it culminates with hospitality in the domestic church.
Which is cool. Like, we didn't originally have a hospitality chapter, but I'm glad that we added it, because the household it's not ordered towards itself. You know, doesn't exist just for itself. It exists for the community. You know, and so hospitality is that way. That so I'm really glad that we added that in there, because
me too.
it puts a good
Nice bow on the whole
finishing touch. Right? Yeah.
domestic church.
It says like, oh, this is what the household is for. You know, to build community, to evangelize.
To
This is all
evangelize.
leading to this.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So would you ladies like to talk more about the Motherhood chapter?
Sure.
Absolutely. I think I had mentioned before, this was one of my favorite chapters to do with Pamela, because we both had different ways to look at how what we've learned through motherhood has given life to our domestic church in our homes. And we talked about some of the sorrows, which that is a huge part of it. And it's not to be a downer about, you know, having kids is this huge burden and we're just suffering.
Right. Yeah.
But that does come. And I think with anything in life, there is suffering. If there weren't, there would be no joy. It just wouldn't happen.
Right.
And so, you know,
Yeah, I think that was my favorite part of this chapter. And we kind of go through the 7 sorrows of Mary, which, like, I haven't, like, really sat with those that much. So it was fun to think about suffering. It was really nice to just reflect on those and think about how that relates to my life. You know, my son isn't being crucified, but, you know, he did fall out of the chair yesterday and bust his lip. Like, you know, that's a little suffering. And I only imagine it'll, you know, the sufferings will change, and, you know, as your kids are in different stages of their life. And, but I really like that section. I had studied a lot, well, not a lot, but did a Bible or a study on John Paul II's Mulieris Dignitatem, on the vocation and dignity of women. So we kind of draw from that, just talking about, like, you know, what is a woman? And what is the vocation of a woman, and to receive and be fruitful, and you can do that in various ways. So motherhood is, like, you know, one of the obvious ones, and so it's a delight because of those challenges that we do face. You have those wonderful moments where it's like, oh, look at my kid, they're being so great, it has all paid off.
right. Because in the moment, a lot of the times there's not a lot of, like, a big round of applause for mom. Look what she did.
Right.
But you have to see just the fruits of
Looking around, be like,
your labor.
I taught him that.
Yeah, exactly.
I want everyone to. There's no one here. Yeah. But I taught him that.
Yeah. Or having someone come up to you and say, wow, those are some great kids.
Your kids are
And that-
so well behaved.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. I
Love
do
it.
like
Those
those
are
moments where
joys.
people come up and be like, your kids are just so well, like,
Right.
You're a
they've
little
got
bit
to-
nervous when they come up. It's
They
like,
have
what are
got
they
to be
going
the
to say?
best kids on the planet, you know.
Yeah.
Like, well,
I agree.
we get that all the time.
How much do you guys see that, like, in order to be intentional mothers, it has to do with preparing those thoughts ahead of time? Like, you know, so you're talking about, like, this whole sorrow aspect of it. It's like, I have to prepare knowing that there is going to be suffering. And now once I encounter suffering, I know kind of how to either react or how to take that on. Does that play a role in motherhood?
Preparing for,
Like, either suffering or your
Sorrows.
joy, or just the life of the household in general. Like, I know how.
I think it takes practice to remind yourself that this is for the glory of God, and I'm trying to get them to heaven. And mother, please help me. And, you know,
yeah, asking for the graces to,
Yeah.
not just cry or
right,
when
because
something
it's
goes
easy
wrong,
to
but
just, you know, kind of
roll your
decide,
eyes.
well, this day's
Oh.
a wash, let's just, but yeah, you just keep trucking.
Also, we talk about training your children, like educating your children, teaching your children, and I think that's really important. And even though it's, like, not overlooked, like that job, I think the seriousness of that job is overlooked. Like, you have to be bold and teach your daughters about modesty. And they're going to say, oh, Mom, that shirt is a little bit low. And so I have to be like, okay, I guess I'll never wear this shirt again because my daughters are pointing their finger,
Right.
which is fine. Like, I've taught them about modesty, So I think the boldness that it takes in training your children, which, goes for fathers also, but is not to be overlooked. Like, really important.
Right. Yeah, but the reality is that I think women, mothers, spend more time, I mean, certainly true in general, more time with children than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so you just have to really think about that. That's like one of the things I like about the book is that it helped me think about this in my own life. And our show has really done this for me in general, helped me be more intentional about the things that I'm doing, the things I'm choosing, right? Whether it's like through discussions about virtue, but we do the same thing in the book, and in our fatherhood chapter. What is a father supposed to be? And are you doing those things just incidentally, or are you choosing them? And the same thing is true with mothers. Certainly, I think it's very, very true with mothers, right? As you're sitting there loving these children, is that just because, like, well, I guess that's what I'm doing today, or are we actually choosing that? And in the choosing it, that's where virtue is, right? Because if you tell the truth just because, like, well, it's like whatever, that's not the virtue of honesty. But if you choose the truth, and do that habitually, then that's where virtue comes in. And so that's like one of the things that I really enjoyed about the Motherhood chapter that you guys wrote, was just this intentional motherhood, right? That it's not just rearing children, not being the heart of the home because I don't know what else to do. It's because this is the thing, this is the vocation of the domestic church.
Right.
And whether you work or not, right? Because not all women have the privilege, luxury of staying at home. That it's still a vocation.
Right.
And I think it's even if you are at work, even if you are staying home, when you said that, it can make it sound difficult, but we've been given natural gifts where having that unconditional love is not hard. It just
the grace of the grace of the vocation, the sacraments, right?
Yeah, you're given those things, and it just comes naturally, especially in your womanhood. You're using that on a daily, and when you're practicing over and over, and it just comes naturally. It's not something to, shy away from or be scared of.
Yesterday in the car, we were listening to the story of Saint Joan of Arc, and it, one of her famous lines just reminds me of this, that someone asked her, "Are you afraid of going into battle?" And she says, "No, I'm not afraid. I was made to do this. I was made for this.
Right.
I was born to do this, right?" Yeah. And the same is true of everyone in their vocation. Like whether you're a father, whether you're single, whether you're a mother, you were born to do this specific thing, right? And so you can rely on the fact that God will give you the grace to do the thing that He put you here to do. So praise God for that.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back. Oh, yeah.
I'm getting pokey.
We clicked on this. Who is this right here?
This one?
Yeah.
You. And you are, that is, your mic is hot.
Who's the top two? Because they're also loud. But just click on the track. Okay, so that's number one. Now the second one. Okay.
Cool. Good?
Yeah.
So which one are we doing next? I think living liturgically is a good one to talk about, just because there's so many good like Catholic hacks
that you guys that we all do
that we can talk about. We don't have to talk about, for the whole segment.
Right.
We can just talk about it for a while and then
move on.
Move on. So let's start there.
Okay.
Number
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Talking about our new book from Ascension Press, Living Beyond Sunday, Making Your Home a Holy Place. You can go to ascensionpress.com. One of the things about our book is we wrote the book for young families, right? For families who are, or for men and women who are about to enter the vocation of marriage, or who are married and are about to enter, having children, or growing their domestic church. And so we intentionally made our book short, so that way people would read it.
Actually read it.
Because we understand as young families, it's hard to be able to sit down and read a 300-page book. So our book is intentionally shorter, with the idea in mind of making sure to give you guys an opportunity to read it.
We tried to just put the important stuff in there. I heard a line yesterday that I think is appropriate. If someone's like, well, how should I explain this to you? As close to the end as possible.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of what we did. We didn't set the we kind of didn't worry about setting the stage. You know the stage. It's the domestic
You're
church.
living it right
you
now.
You have one. Okay.
Right.
So we tried to get straight into things that were practical. Hey, here's stuff that's working for us. And so I do want to give a shout out to our bishop, David Condrela, for writing the foreword to our book. That was very kind of him.
Yes.
And kind of exciting, right?
Right. Yeah.
But we chapter 5 is on living liturgically. I think that is kind of one of the that's where all the Catholic hacks come in when it comes to raising a family. And this is an idea that I'm sure has been around. It's been around for a long time, but in my own upbringing, and I know this is true for Adam as well, that this was just not a concept that people considered. And we were brought up in very good Catholic homes, but this idea of living liturgically, it just wasn't around, right?
And I think today, when you hear domestic church, that almost means living liturgically, which I think is something different about our book, is that's just one of the pieces, looking at that calendar and saying, ooh, whose feast day is this week? Or, oh, any of my kids' names on the liturgical calendar this month?
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
And I do love that because it provides so many good opportunities to have more cake.
Yes.
There's an Elizabeth. There's some Saint Elizabeth I've never heard of, on the calendar today. Let's bake a cake, right? Because we have an Elizabeth, and so there's so many great. That is actually one of the joys of living liturgically. This idea of connecting your home life to the liturgical season, or to the what is the feast of the day? There's so many opportunities for celebration and for joy, for festivity, that if you're not paying attention, you'd miss.
Right.
A lot of these great things, but this to me is where the faith is incarnated, right? Okay, so when you bring the liturgy home, it's no longer churches. It's not just something we do on Sundays, and your kids, they learn that very quickly. And if your faith is something that you only do on Sundays, your kids will learn that very quickly. Okay.
Yeah.
But just little things
so along with having cake on the day, for us, it's well, we can go to daily mass, so we're going to go to daily mass because it's a party day, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to go to mass. I think that's one of my favorite ways to celebrate a feast day. Do you guys have a favorite celebration?
Well, one of the
favorite feast day?
One of the ones that I really like that's very practical of like how to celebrate well is Saint Joseph the Worker.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yes,
It's a good one.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I love this feast day because it gives me the opportunity. So what I did when my boys were very young is I bought them a toolbox. Okay, and so every year on the feast of Saint Joseph the Worker, I buy them a new tool. And the tool is a nice tool. It's not like one of those cheap Harbor Freight tools. It is like a nice tool.
Age appropriate.
Age appropriate, obviously. The jackhammer was a big hit
Electric
this year.
saw.
Yeah,
Exactly. You're 4 years old.
yeah, it's time.
Here's a Sawzall.
Right.
It's a DeWalt 20 volt.
Yeah.
That
This
is
baby-
Extra
very-
battery pack.
This baby will cut through a human arm in 20 seconds.
Yeah. No, but so I
should not have said that.
so I would buy like a nice screwdriver, right? A nice flathead for the boys. You know,
Uh-huh.
so that way I would teach them. Here's how the tool is used. The importance of finishing a project once you have started it, and then it gives just this natural time to be able to talk about Saint Joseph with them, right? It's more organic. It's not a sit down. It's time for Dad to teach you a lesson on Saint Joseph, but we're outside in the garage. Doing a project together,
Doing fun things,
and being like, hey, don't you think it'd be cool, like when Jesus was with Joseph and they were doing something like this together? What do you think they were talking about? And just let them think about
be
this idea,
imaginative.
right? Yeah, this idea of Jesus and Saint Joseph working together to complete a project. The importance of working, in diligence, and then that way the idea is when they're 18 years old. They have a toolbox full of nice tools that they can take off whenever they're out of the house.
Here's a pro tip. Don't start with the hammer.
That's right.
Okay.
It's a good
Do
one.
they have hammers yet?
They
I think
do.
We started with a level.
Yeah, we started with a
Ooh.
level.
That's a good one.
Tape measure, maybe.
Yeah.
But we went to the rubber
Those are
mallet
fun.
recently, which was
Yeah,
okay.
That's all right. Yeah.
There's
You-
still
you
some
think like,
downfalls to that.
Number one tool,
Can we get a
let's get
list?
him a hammer, right?
Right.
Do not buy your 5-year-old a hammer.
Right.
You will regret it.
Your sheetrock will regret it. Yeah.
So like maybe your car will regret it.
Yeah.
You have no idea
Ooh,
what
yeah.
what it is that will regret that you bought a 5-year-old a hammer. But that is a really great thing. Just other practical like little things like having a prayer area, an oratory, if you want to call that, in your house. One of the things that I love that Pamela has done is she made different colored tablecloth. I mean, it's like we have this little tiny table, right, where we have
Our
the
little home
crucifix.
altar.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
little home altar. So we have different altar cloths, purple, green, white, red.
I love that.
And so that's exciting for the kids when it's like, now it's
Now it's Advent.
it's Advent.
Can I change the tablecloth?
Yeah, they get excited to change the tablecloth and set everything back up, right? Little stuff like that they notice, right? If we change it, because it's like, oh, they're already in bed, let's just go ahead and change it. They'll wake up and say, oh, it's
Someone
they
did that.
notice right away. Another one of my favorites is in Passiontide during Lent, which is I forget the exact
I think
day.
it's 2 weeks.
I think it's 2 weeks
Easter,
before
so
Easter.
Is that Palm Sunday? No, that's just 1 week.
We cover all of the holy images in our house. All the pictures of Mary, all the saints, certainly all the crucifixes with purple cloth. And we just went and got cheap
Scarves. We use scarves.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I just cut them up. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Nice.
And it purple is good if you have purple.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually have to be purple, but it's totally better if it is purple
Yeah.
because it is during Lent. And like you're anticipating. It's like the purple is for anticipation, right? And then on
preparation.
Easter, preparation. Thank you.
Both.
Yeah, it's both, but preparation more fittingly. So then on Easter, when you remove it all, it's not even just for
I've
the kids.
been missing that.
Like even just my own prayer life there, all of a sudden now when I'm kneeling to pray, I can see the crucifix again, and it's like, oh, hi Jesus, I've missed you. So little things like that. You kind of mentioned, Adam, that we wrote this book for families with kids, which is true. But I think that even if you don't have kids, even if you're an empty nester, the things that we write about would be beneficial for you because you still have a domestic church,
and things you can do with your grandkids for sure.
Right, yeah, do with your
Right.
grandkids.
Yeah.
But like you can still celebrate and you still need to be bringing the liturgy home just for yourself. You know, living liturgically is not something you do for the kids. It's something that you do because it's good. It's something you do for the human person.
Yeah, I'd say probably the last half of the book is definitely for everybody, like no matter what stage in your life. Like the home of the domestic church, like your house. What does your house look like? When we first got married, you know, our house had like nothing on the walls. And I always think like, good thing like we have holy images that we can put up. Otherwise, I would be at a loss. Like, what am I going to hang on the wall?
When Pamela and I were
Pictures
dating,
of me? You know?
I remember this. Like one day she was leaving my house and she said, "You know what I think would look good right here? I think a picture would look good on the wall right here." And I just like was floored. And I remember wide-eyed looking around my house and realized the idea of decorating has literally never occurred to me. Like that is a great wow. You just blew my mind. I had a crucifix in every room, and I was like,
And
done.
that was it.
This house is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, but there was nothing on any wall, right? The mantle was completely bare. It was like I think back on it now, and it's hilarious. Thank you, Pamela.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
The woman brings warmth,
Right, and beauty to the home.
To the home.
Yeah. But like we can move on to the home. The home
Sure.
chapter.
That's a cool chapter.
It is a cool chapter, and it's like this idea that the house itself is an analogy of holiness. Okay, the house is sacred in a literal way. The word sacred means set apart. Okay, so something is considered sacred when you remove it from ordinary life.
The rest.
You know, a bowl is sacred. It's like, no, this bowl, we're not going to eat cereal out of it anymore. It's just going to be for
Ice cream.
you know, like putting incense in before the Lord or whatever it is.
Or ice cream.
No. Only if it's ice cream for the Lord.
Oh, well, of course.
Is there another way to eat ice cream?
Good question.
That's a whole other book, Adam. We'll be right back. We'll keep talking.
Desserts in the Catholic home. Have you ever
That
been
is a
to,
chapter
that?
I would like to write.
They have have you been to the Catholic cuisine blog?
No.
That's what I do.
Okay, this is the last segment. Let's
Suggestions.
try to do
So
some.
we need to do the home.
I tried to segue.
and then-
Did
Yeah.
you see that? Did I do good?
That was good.
and then leisure.
Okay.
Leisure. I can do the home very quickly. Leisure, and then
Well, it'd be great to have them talk more because, you know, it's our show. We talk all the time.
Okay.
I'd like them to talk more.
We talked like that whole second segment.
Yeah, I feel like I did really well, babe.
I also felt
Me
that way,
too.
Haley.
Thank you.
No matter what he says about you. Burn!
It's probably true.
I'd like to dedicate this next segment to my wife. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. David Niles here with Adam Minahan and our lovely wives, Haley and Pamela. Talking about our book that we have coming out through Ascension Press. We were just talking about the house. We have a chapter on the house. Not all houses are created equal. Some houses are better than others. But the house is like this. It's an interesting analogy for holiness, right? Because holiness is sacred. The word means set apart. Something is sacred when it's set apart for God, and exclusively for, you know, in service to Him. You know, like the vessels, like the chalice we use at Mass. It would be a sacrilege to use that just to like drink water out of, because it's set apart for only its use in the liturgy. Well, the house literally does this. It sets apart one, like a family, from the outside world, right? And that there's these walls, boundaries that say, here is where the home begins. It introduces this beautiful idea, which is totally unpopular these days from just a word standpoint of exclusivity, right? Everything needs to be inclusive today, right? If it's going to be good, it should be inclusive. Well, actually, the best things in life are exclusive. The things that we treasure the most are always exclusive, right? Like a family is exclusive. You can't be part of somebody else's family because you're not part of the family, right? You have your own family. Now you could be adopted into, right? And so now you're exclusively part of this family, right? But the best things in life are exclusive. Marriage being the most exclusive institution, right? And that's what brings so much of that beauty, is that I have set myself apart from all other women as a husband, just for you, Pamela, right? And so we go through the rooms individually and say, what does this room mean? What does it do for the church? What's the significance behind the bedroom, behind the kitchen, the living room? The living room is the best room in the house because it's the only one ordered towards the person. So every other room in the house is ordered towards a specific service or function towards the domestic church. But the living room of a house is such that the family is good. The people in your house are good in and of themselves, and that there should be a room simply to be together.
To live.
Right, exactly.
Learn how to live together.
So we talk about that just as a way of, once again, being intentional about what should this room be? What should we be doing in it? How should it be decorated? How should it function to serve the family? Because you need to, a lot of this is about bringing order to the household, and so just thinking deeply about the individual parts of the domestic church, I think, help bring that order to the whole.
Yeah,
so that was
and
then
evaluating, like, are we using these rooms appropriately?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you make food in the kitchen. Are you just standing there and eating while you're feeding everyone else, or are you sitting down with them and enjoying the meal with them? After you've done all that work making food.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't mention this. We didn't mention this in the book, but personally, I have a critique on open floor plans. It's very popular, great for entertaining, right? Because you can have this, big space, but you can have an open floor plan, but you can do little things to designate a dining area, separate it out.
Border.
Right, exactly. Even if it's like, oh, I have a rug.
I was thinking
here.
a beaded curtain.
Right, yeah.
You used to have those, in your bedroom in middle school.
So you need, like, having little things that designate areas, because having a space in your house that's the dining room, it brings dignity to dining. Okay, like, we don't do anything else here. Dining is so important. We don't do anything else in that space. I paid, like, if you pay $150,000 for your house, how much did you pay just for the dining room? It's like, I paid $25,000 just to have a place where we eat food, and that's all we do, right? But that's good, because the dining is so important as a family, as a domestic church, that it's worthy of its own space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, that's what we kind of talk about there. Adam, do you want to?
Let's talk about service. Let's talk about service in the domestic church. We have a whole chapter on that. Like you said, Pamela, before the break, or one of the segments, is that we have one geared towards, like, service towards spouses, then service towards children, and then children even service towards parents. And so we try to incorporate every aspect of the domestic church of how do we serve one another, because everybody in the home has a unique duty to serve each other. So what are some of the things that are in the book that we do there, we talk about?
I really like the portion where we talk about service, like siblings serving one another, and gosh, that makes things run a lot more smoothly. Like, okay, I'm going to be generous and let you use the bathroom first, which we have 3 girls so far, so the bathroom is kind of a problem.
Right.
But, just being generous, serving, like, you can't even learn those things too early, to put others before yourself.
And I think that's the main word, is learning it, because they have to see it being done. Right. You have to show it first with your spouse and then to them, so they know what to do. Because at first they're, a 2-year-old is in
very
their
selfish
own world. Like, there's no way they have even the cognitive abilities to be thinking of, oh, wasn't thinking about
He's
your
sad
feelings
because
there.
I took that away.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, they have to see mom and dad serving one another, and then you serving them also and taking care of their needs. And then that's when you see those wonderful moments of like the sibling to sibling service and them serving you also, and with a happy heart to do it.
Right. Joyfully and willingly.
I think that is a great point because, yeah, like the people in the home are the first people you learn to serve.
Right.
You know, like you probably do something, a child probably has his first act of generosity towards a parent. You know, like, hey, you know, whether it's
just those kisses,
affection,
like coming
kisses
up and giving you kisses
or whatever, but it needs to, it's important that it moves beyond that just because the psychology of young children and their parents is, you know, it's hard to distinguish them from themselves, but their siblings, they know. These are like, oh, there's other people who
It's a
live in the house
competition.
too. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So when they can do that, that's good. And I like how you said that, Haylee, that you have to learn it. And, because it isn't something that will just come naturally. You can't just expect your children to like, oh, well, they're obviously going to be generous. No, you have to instruct them. You have to reward them, you know, for those things.
And that kind of piggybacks on another chapter that we even talk about on language of the church.
Right.
Like, so how does service and language play a role together in the domestic church?
I think you have to use the words that you want to expect the behavior.
Yeah.
Is
like
that a good sentence?
the words, when you talk
Like
about virtues,
I don't just
words,
want you to do this. I want you to obey. You know,
Sure.
I don't just want you to set the table. I want you to be obedient in your duty as a child and what I'm telling you to do.
the words become the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you talk about obedience, when you talk about honesty, when you say those words out loud, then that becomes the things that they want to strive after.
Which the other day we ran into somebody, we were talking about obedience, I guess, and we ran into someone and they thought, oh, she didn't like that word. And I thought it was very interesting, like, that is a great word. Like, that should be the best word, like, in your whole house. Like, yay, you were obedient, you know? And of course, like, blind obedience to some extent is definitely not what you want, but
Yeah, it depends.
hopefully, like, blind obedience to your parents, this should be expected, you know?
Blind obedience to God, right? You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the words, you know, words of virtue and encouragement and not just be nice, but be generous, be kind.
Forming those habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do think that's so important how the words you use in the domestic church, they become the goal.
Right.
And that this idea that there is in fact a liturgy. You know, when you go to Holy Mass, there are things you say and things you do at specific times in response to other things that have been said and done. Right? And so the same is true at home. And it's like a liturgy, right? There's a formula. When someone says or does these things, you respond with these actions and these words.
You say thank you. You say
"Thank
I forgive you.
I'm sorry. I forgive you. Right, exactly.
Thank you, Mom. That was a delicious dinner.
So how did you guys like really reinforce those? Because again, it has to become a habit, right? Of yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, thank
And
you,
what about
please.
the tone? Like if you're using, I mean, that's such a difficult thing to teach a child is, well, you said the right thing.
It takes vigilance. it just takes, I mean, you guys know this. I mean, it just takes constant vigilance. And you just have to be willing to enforce and constantly remind them, even when you don't want to.
I feel like for us, like if you get in trouble, it's because you were disobedient or disrespectful. Like everything falls into those categories pretty much.
Yeah, because if you're just ignorant, if you just didn't know something, it's like you're not going to be in trouble. You'll get corrected, but you're not going to be in trouble about it, right? You know. So, disobedience and disrespect, which even disrespect ultimately is disobedience, because we have a rule of respect, right? Okay.
Gotcha.
Exactly. But it's so important because if a child cannot be obedient to its parents, then how do you expect it to be obedient to God?
Right.
Right.
And this is the crux, right?
And that's what it all comes down to, right? A child learns to obey his mother, his father, so that he learns to obey his ultimate father, you know, with that same fidelity.
And I feel like as a spouse, like that is what I can help David. Like, I don't know, we help one another keep to those standards, you know.
Right.
When I'm having a hard day, David's like, no, she was being disrespectful, or, you know, work together.
So we're out of time on the radio. If you're listening via Catholic radio, go to thecatholicmanshow.com. You can check out this full episode as we continue this talk on our new book that we just got just released by Ascension Press, Living Beyond Sunday, How to Make Your Home a Holy Place. Go check it out, ascensionpress.com. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us. We'll continue this conversation on podcast. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus. Okay. So now we can get into like the hot takes. So we talked about service. We could still talk about hospitality. Let's talk about hospitality.
Okay. Well, you guys are really good at that. Why don't you start?
Really, you know who's the best at hospitality is Juan. Juan's
absolutely.
Juan's not here today, but Juan is just like the embodiment of hospitality. So shout out to Juan.
Mm-hmm. And Joan.
And Joan.
Joan, come on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joan.
Yeah.
What you talk about in your book, it's not just an individual, not in your book, in our book. It's the family. The whole family's got to be on board for the hospitality.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, well, what are those other people doing? Like, you're serving me and entertaining me. And
so Adam and I went to Alabama, like a year ago.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a year or two ago.
We went to EWTN. Mm-hmm. And while we were there, we met with a guy who I just like kind of really opened my eyes to.
Was it the Biddles friends?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
It was. Ramon, Charlie, it
starts with an R, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's continue.
Whatever. I'm close. Sorry, Charlie. But he was talking about the importance of hospitality and the importance of being a member of the community, and how there's this idea that, I'm just going to kind of isolate my family, put this bubble, which you need to do. There's a time for sheltering your children, and there's a time for isolation, especially in the early years, right, when a child needs to be exposed to good things and needs to be sheltered from bad things. But at some point you have to grow out of that. And he brought up the point because he had they have a large, beautiful family. He has these 10. Yeah,
is that right?
That could, yeah. It's a large family, beautiful young daughters,
double digits.
Handsome sons, right? And he's pointing out that, like, my daughters, they're going to need most likely someone to marry someday. So he realized, I have a vested interest in you raising your sons the way in which I want them to be raised to marry my daughters. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, I have daughters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
quite a few.
I better get over to that Minahan house and start
cracking the whip,
boys into shape. But it just was this, like, that the domestic churches, ultimately, they're not ordered towards themselves. They're ordered towards each other. And they're ordered towards this community, right? That man and woman was made to be in relationship with one another. And that doesn't end at marriage. It moves beyond that into friendship and into neighbors. It moves, it's like a concentric rings, or like a ripple that moves throughout the entire world. And that order at home is such that it would be ordered outward, that it would flow outside of itself. This exclusivity, it's one of the great paradoxes that there's so many in Christianity. The domestic church is exclusive so that it can be inclusive, right? But you have to have that in the beginning so that, you can go out. So the things that we talk about in the book, they all build into hospitality, because until you have hospitality, you don't have community.
Right. I like that the service chapter was right before hospitality.
Yeah, me too.
Because after that is, well done. That it is, you're kind of flowing, and you're, you have a good rein on it.
Overflow.
that leads beautifully
service.
into hospitality and serving others. And I think the word you used in the chapter was bloodbath, of having your house in order. If it's not, and if these things aren't, taken
And not the good
care
kind.
of, yeah,
It's a
yeah,
bloodbath and not the good kind.
yeah, then, serving others or, having people over to your home is going to be just torture.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
you're
that's also a good word.
running around with your head cut off. People are coming. Things are crazy. I think everyone has maybe seen it, like a parody video of a mom running around the house trying to get things together.
to do everything.
Yeah.
I think I know the video you're talking about.
Yeah. And it can be very true, but if you do have those steps in place.
We don't want people to know we sit.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think it does flow well because ultimately, right, so we have to be able to form our children and form our household to live virtuous lives so that, like we said at the beginning of the show, we can go out and evangelize, right? Hospitality is so important so that we can build friends. Friendship is so important in the evangelization game, so to speak, right?
Right.
Because they won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's kind of, I know that's a little saying that's kind of
A little
overused.
cliche,
Little
but
cliche,
Yeah, it
but
is.
it's
Yeah,
true.
but
But
that's
it's
okay.
true.
It doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah, and so the importance of being able to invite people into your home, into an ordered home, into a chaotic ordered home, maybe even, but and to be able to serve them, just like our children. It takes them. They have to learn by seeing us serve one another as husband and wife. Sometimes other families need to be able to see, like whenever you were with Charlie, like when we were with Charlie at their house, and we realized, oh, look, they're all serving us. Each child has their own role to play in this meal, that, and in order to make it a very nice meal that we can all have a good conversation around. And so it's the same thing whenever we invite people over to our house, so that everybody understands everybody has a role to play in this game, so that we can build friendship, we can build trust, we can build camaraderie, a community, so that we can ultimately have the ultimate goal of sharing the faith,
Right.
and ultimately becoming saints.
And I think helping one another grow in holiness, like, oh, I see that your family, they kneel when they pray, before bedtime. Like, we don't do that. Like, we, just.
This is the importance of holy friendship, right?
Yeah. Holy
Right.
friendship, saints hang out with saints, and that's what we want to do here. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That it's not just about, I want to go and evangelize my neighbors. No, you need to be evangelized. You think you've attained holiness? Like, you haven't.
So I'm going to ask her, like, how did you get to that point where your kids are all kneeling there nicely,
Yeah.
like, kind of pick each other's brains
Right.
and see, like, what areas can I improve?
Well, I think that's one of the beautiful things about writing this book is I feel like none of these things are my ideas. I've just taken things that I've witnessed or
Aspirations.
learned, from other people, and because I feel like growing up there was none of this in my household, and so I kind of started from zero, and so just like kind of picking these things up of and that's another reason to surround yourself with good holy friends who have your best interest at heart.
Yeah, because people might not know, Haylee, you're a convert.
Correct. Yeah.
So you were converted like as you were getting married. So like Catholicism was like this new
Christianity.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
5 sacraments in
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Which you would never be able to tell. I feel like you have just taken so naturally to
Pamela, thank
being
you.
a lovely mother,
That's
lovely Catholic mother.
such a nice thing to say.
I also feel like you wouldn't be able to tell.
Well, I mean, you.
She's a better Catholic than I am.
Because she hangs out with holy, she hangs out with holy
This
people.
is a testament
Yeah.
to hanging out with holy people.
But really, you need that. Like you need to surround yourself with holy friends for yourself. Also so you can, so you can go out to other people. But you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't have that base, if you don't have that foundation of Christ, and order, right? Because there's something ordered about. God made the world so ordered. The spiritual life is ordered, and so if you don't have an ordered life, then you're not going to really have Christ. Okay, like I qualify that. Obviously you could be like in the throes of addiction and struggling and pursuing him, but addiction is this massive disorder in your life. You could still have Christ, right? Just because you're trying and pursuing. But for the most part, in ordinary life, if things are disordered in your life, then you're deceiving yourself, right? Or there's something wrong with the way you're living. And Christ wants you to have that order, because his peace, his love is well ordered towards him, right? When things are disordered, they're not ordered towards him anymore. And so the household, it's just,
right.
It's the foundation of the way that you live outside of the house as well.
Definitely.
Ladies, I want to take just a second and say thank you so much for helping us write the book.
Thank you for marrying us.
I think that the best chapters are the ones that you guys did, and so I'm grateful for your time. I know it was not easy. I know it was a little stressful. I know that there were times that were
we could have used
fun.
this bottle of whiskey back then.
That's right.
Writer's tears.
Yeah.
I mean, whiskey?
Yeah. Ishki.
Ishkabaha. Is that what it was?
Ishkabaha.
I like that word.
Yeah.
That is fun to say. Ishkabaha.
Yeah. But I am very grateful for you guys. I know that there's a lot of sacrifice that's involved also even in the show, being able to do this show, that you guys are behind the scenes that no one really probably thinks about. But I'm grateful for you guys being able to help us with the book, help us with the show, because ultimately, like we said in the book, our goals are to get to heaven, and you guys are our vocation, and so we love you guys very much. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anything else you want to say, Dave?
No.
All right. CenturyPress.com. Living Beyond Sunday, making your home a holy place.
Yeah. Enjoy the book.